everyone, can you hear me? It's very nice to see you all here. Hello, how are you doing? Can you give me just a moment? I'm going just to adjust the lighting. I see it's not clear enough, but I'll be here in just 30 seconds, I promise. Just a second, please. Hello, so nice to see you. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me nicely. Do you? I keep changing where I am, where I talk to you from, and then sometimes I'm caught with something like the phone is not working, the microphone, I mean, is not working properly or something like this. Just I want to make sure you hear me well. If the image is not good, that is okay, but it's very important that you hear me well. Do you? Let me take a look at your messages. Wonderful, wonderful. Very nice to have you guys here. I hope you have prepared some nice questions or topics for us to discuss today. And hopefully we'll be able to go into that deeply. It's at the moment not so many of us here, so perhaps you can write something and then I answer and then you comment back, so it can be more like a talk, really like a chat instead of just me speaking. We have some questions from the previous videos, but I would rather to address your topics first. I want to comment with you something. Let me just make sure here that I am accessing my files. Yes, now I can see my files. Good. So I had some topics I was saying, and I would like just to bring one issue for us to start before we go ahead, which is research. Research about chakras, energy field, consciousness, out-of-body experience, and it's so difficult for us to have proper studies, different methodologies being applied, something that fits into this type of subjective phenomenon. But when we say subjective phenomenon, we cannot assume it's always subjective because there are out-of-body experiences, remote viewing, healing, different type of phenomena that once in a while they get to be confirmed. But because they are not always confirmed, because it's not something that we can repeat, it's not something that we can predict the results, then it becomes so hard for us to properly study, properly discuss. And then what happens is that in most of the cases, there we are, talking about our experiences, what we see outside the body, and sometimes to me it sounds like, okay, but when do we move on? We go a step ahead. Instead of just being talking about experiences, we can put together our experiences. We can just join and make a study where we can bring some more substantiated, solid results. I try a lot to do it, to learn from every different source and eliminate what is not coherent or not well explained, or there are not evidences enough, and try to keep with is a more consensus information, in a sense that we know about it, we can explain it. We know many people who have reported and they were unrelated one to another. So I try very much to do that. What I'm going to bring to you next month is an interview I did with Federico Faggin. I do not know if you know who he is, but he's a gentleman that invented the microprocessor. In other words, the reason why you are there probably with your tablets, your laptop, and I'm here with mine, and the reason why we can just get into our cars and we have a mini computer there that can control so many different controls, meaning how much of oil you have and what is the temperature, and give you so many information. All of that derives from his work. Even our cooking machine would use some chips inside that they derived from his work. Now, this gentleman who received many prizes, he's now studying consciousness, out-of-body experience, and enlightenment, like a expansion of consciousness, expansion of awareness, which is a phenomenon that many people talk about, but it's not as common as the out-of-body experience. So I was talking to him about how can we improve scientific studies on this area. And I'm going to bring that to you here. I bet you will enjoy very much to listen to his opinions on the limitations of science, on what's possible to do. He had an experience himself, an out-of-body experience, but also with a component of cosmo-consciousness. And that made him see, well, there's something here that nobody is taking seriously enough. So I will love to bring this to you. Hang in there. It's going to be in a few weeks because I'm in the final adjustments of the editing details, and I interviewed him especially for us to discuss here. And that's why I was saying so difficult. And when we talk about studies of subtle energy, chakras, how much can we really interpret of all of that? I try to bring as many evidences as possible and bring in different studies that would point to similar directions in my book, Vibrational State. I'm not sure I have a copy here. I do. Give me a moment. Here it is, but I know some of you have read it. This is a consistent reading, so it's something that it requires is more study than just a relaxed reading. But I tried to bring here everything I could about the vibrational state. What is the logics of that? Do you know what the vibrational state is? Those of you who are here, I know many do because you have been here with me for some time. But it's a sensation of a very strong vibration inside the body. But it's not just a vibration that you feel as if you are shaking, for example. Is completely different in terms of its regimen, the intensity, the amplitude of the waves, the frequency it reaches, how deep it goes. And that is a very common experience among astral projectors. The out-of-body experience is very much accompanied and characterized by this type of vibration. Having said that, I want to make a parenthesis here that is very important. Not every time that we leave the body, we will have a vibrational state. Sometimes we will leave the body and we will not experience any type of vibration. But why is it that sometimes we do and sometimes we don't? For some people, it's very common for them to experience the vibrations, whilst others seem never to have had them. What does it mean? So let me explain why the vibrational state happens in association with the out-of-body experience. The vibrational state in itself is a phenomenon that I have researched for 15 years. And the technique to produce the vibrational state, well, there are many, but the one that I think is the deepest, the most appropriate, the most complete, is what I call the VELO technique, VELO. So it's an acronym for voluntary energetic longitudinal oscillation. That is a term that I have coined as a result of this study. But anyways, here goes the vibrational state and the out-of-body experience. What happens is that when we are detaching from the body, this moment that can be very brief, half a second, fraction of a second, we are out. We can sense many things, but sometimes this phase of the out-of-body experience takes a while. And then that is when we can appreciate more details, more sensations, different aspects of this moment of the out-of-body experience, which is the disconnection from the physical body. And we have some sort of energetic links connecting our physical body, so our physical body, to our non-physical bodies, our astral bodies, if you will. And then all of those connections, energetic connections, when we start detaching, they change very much the structure they have. Because when we are here aligned with the physical body, they are just connecting the non-physical body with the physical one, but in a certain degree of adherence to the physical body. But when we start detaching, it changes. So it's almost like it's stretching. It's not stretching because it's not a physical thing, just for us to understand. And that's when the silver cord gets to be formed. If you take a look here in the channel, I have a video about the silver cord, how it's formed, what it is, what's the relevance of it when we have an out-of-body experience. But that's why sometimes when we are detaching, some people have a tendency to be more aware of this very phase in which the energies are changing its regimen and structure because we are getting further from the body. And in this moment is when usually we sense the vibrational state. That does not mean every time we sense the vibrational state, we will get out of the body. I just published a video about this a couple of weeks ago. So people assume, okay, because I'm sensing the energy detaching, the frequency changing, and I am sensing this stretch, this pulling of the energy per se that is connecting the two bodies, this means I'm out. No, because it can be just the first phase, it can be just the beginning of it. But there is a moment in which the energy will change its modulation to a point that we sense, or we may sense, this vibration. Many people do. But as I said, some, they are not completely aware of that sensation when they are detaching. Meaning, sometimes we do leave the body. We have lucid out-of-body experience, conscious projection, without sensing the vibrational state. Without sensing, for example, the sleep paralysis, which is somewhat associated or happens due to similar causes, but it has different results for us. But in this case, the more conscious we are at that moment, at that specific phase, the more we can observe all of the different reactions and sensations and parallel phenomena that can happen. That's why I think it's so important that we learn proper techniques and that we learn how to master our energy, how to work with our energy in a way that we can prompt more easily the out-of-body experience, that we can be more conscious of the energetic phenomena that may be happening at the moment we are detaching or just very relaxed or just perhaps even meditating. Many people have some of these energetic phenomena while they are meditating. But that's why it's so important that we learn proper techniques. But if you are trying to leave the body and you don't get to sense this phase when you are detaching and all of these energetic repercussions are happening, never mind. What is important is that you remain conscious, that you take advantage of what you see, what you learn, that you remain lucid with logics, with rationality while you are outside the body, so that you can take advantage of the experience and that you remember. Well, if you don't remember, the wisdom is inside of you, but then it doesn't come here to the surface of our brain, and it's not exactly what we want, right? At least for me, I like when I remember very vividly my out-of-body experience. But just to conclude this long comment that I have made here, not always we remember our experiences. Actually, most of them we don't remember. So we need to have special techniques, strategies to try and remember more. But no matter how much we remember, still what research has been pointing us to is that still there are fragments or some projections that we simply don't get to remember. In the same way that most of us, we don't remember every single event of our waking lives. So it's natural, it's more or less the same. Does it seem logical to you? Let me know. Have you ever had a vibrational state or an experience like this? And do you have any comment on research about energetic phenomena, our energy body, different aspects that you can communicate or propose or share experiences that you have had? That's what we have to do. Be open-minded and sharing and being able to put aside what we learned, it doesn't make sense, but to bring on board what does. If any of you would like an information that is deep about all of this energy out of body experience, what we do out there, how we take advantage, I recommend that you take a look at the consciousness development program of the IAC. This is IAC's program, it's not mine. I don't have anything to do with it except that I am one of the designers. I created the course with Wagner Allegretti. So we wrote it. I know exactly what's there. I teach many classes, but I did this as a donation to the IAC. So if you want, take a look there. And I want to tell you that there's this month, May we are, right? Yes. In this month, we are going to have one group of the Consciousness Development Program starting. And then another one will be only in 3-4 months. We do not know exactly because we like to follow the groups. Anyway, I mentioned because otherwise it takes a long time for you to see it again. Let me go to your questions, and I appreciate so much when we get to talk to each other here. Do you have one to bring to me? Carol, please. Carol is helping us today. She has been with us, right? Quite some times. Yes. Nick V. Hi, Nick. Excuse me. Do you find a difference between astral projection and lucid dreams? Yes. Last night, I became lucid in a dream and was trying to intend to be out of body by my bed, but was having trouble. Lucid dreaming, I guess there's a continuation. No, that's it, Carol. Yeah, Nick, I'd love to comment about that. Actually, we are going to offer a free event, Lucid Dreaming, Astral Projection, and Beyond. It starts on the 19th. The IAC is offering a free course training on that. So if you want, keep an eye or leave a message here in the comments. Not here in the live chat, but in the comments of the video, and someone will get back to you. What happens is that I see that for many people, they just use lucid dream as a synonym of out-of-body experience. I'm not very much in favor of that because I think that brings more confusion than enlightenment. It leads us to think that they are the same and not being able to distinguish. These are two different phenomena, but they can happen in a way that they are so close to one another that we may get confused. Sorry, let me put here on silence mode. So you're not going to be hearing bleep bleep, WhatsApp and Signal, whatever stuff we have all the time. But then going back there to the lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience. I can distinguish well when I am lucid dreaming or in an out-of-body experience for most of the times. But sometimes it's not so easy. Let me explain what happens here. We have dreams, regular dreams, right? And then we have a fully conscious, controlled, out-of-body experience of which we remember details and therefore it makes a lot of sense. Okay. But in between these two extremities here, just regular dreams, it's just our brain reorganizing, and this point here, there is a lot or a long degree of different phenomena that we can have here. And among them is the lucid dreaming. But among them is sometimes a projection that's not very lucid. So there, while we are sleeping, we tend to get more and more conscious. And sometimes it gets to a point that we gain control of our dream. We know we are dreaming, or we decide we are going to fly and we fly, or we think of I'm going to talk to my cousin, and then poof, all of a sudden our cousin or that specific cousin just appears there. So this tends to be more like the lucid dreaming. But while we are controlling the dream and we are gaining more activity in terms of our mental attributes, we become more conscious, we become more in control, we are associating ideas, we are referring to memories that we have in our current life, we are setting a plan of what we would like to see and to do. All of that helps us to keep increasing our lucidity outside the body, or very close to our bodies if we are there. And then we start, or we may start, observing what's really going on there. And we see, oh, it seems that I am really floating. Sometimes we are in a lucid dream, and then all of a sudden, when we start becoming more lucid, we just find ourselves like with our nose there, close to the roof, because we were just floating. And in our brain, we were experiencing a dream, and then we create, or we manage to be more conscious, and we see we were floating. In your description here, Nick, I see that you were in a lucid dream, but you were trying to be out of the body, close to your body, like seeing there your bedroom. Did I understand you correct, Nick? That's how I understood your comment. But then there's a problem. What is the problem? You were assuming that you were inside of your bedroom still. What if you detached from the body and you were in your living room or already in a place that you know, and you try to see your bedroom, but instead you cannot, because it's difficult to manage to bring the lucidity and your vision to see clearly what's there. So there are different components that you have to put your attention on. Number one, what if you were not inside your bedroom? So the best thing for you in a condition like this is, okay, if this is a lucid dream, I want to see where I am now, to start with. And then, if you notice it gets difficult for you to have a clear vision of where you are, or to perceive clearly your bedroom or whichever place you are in at that moment, you may consider, am I too close to my body? Maybe I am still inside my bedroom. Because when we are close to our bodies, because of the action of the silver cord, and we being still very much in a greater level of energetic contact with our physical bodies, it tends to be harder for us to move, to see. And that's why most of the times people who detach, they don't manage to be immediately lucid outside of their bodies. Why not? Because they are still so close that is a phase that tends to be harder. I'm not saying 100% of the cases. Of course, I have had projections that I was lucid inside of my bedroom. But in terms of percentage, when we start understanding what happens to our energy body, the energetic connection, and what is the type of energy that we have in our bedroom, we start noticing that it's harder to gain the control when we are close to the body. So it could be why it was for you not so easy to see where you were and to gain the control in the out-of-body experience. But I commented all these because I wanted to bring a little deeper examination for you, more of a reflection on the topic. Because we, first of all, need to consider, was I already in an out-of-body experience, but not very lucid? It felt like a dream or mixed. I was like groggy. Or was that only a dream? Because sometimes it mixes. And that is when it gets hard for us to come to a conclusion, which one is which. With time, we learn. Sometimes we will have doubts. Nobody will develop in their out-of-body experiences. Nobody will develop in their subtle perceptions, the understanding of their energy, if they cannot cope with being in doubt sometimes, because we may sense, for example, a presence, like a spiritual presence, we may sense, and we do not know, who is this? Am I really observing it, sensing? Has this being always been here? I never noticed. Is this the same type of presence that I felt 15 years ago when I was in my grandmother's house? Sometimes we have question marks. Actually, those who really have out-of-body experiences, who really control more their perceptions and have more understanding of what goes on in this multidimensional reality, meaning we sense the physical world, but we also sense the non-physical world. We sense other layers of energy. Any of us who are used to have real experience there, we know we have sometimes to understand that we cannot necessarily have 100% conclusion of what's in there. There are gaps that we cannot fill. And usually people, when they are less experienced, they tend to try and fill all the gaps, and then the brain plays trick on us because it starts just bringing sometimes ideas that were not necessarily coherent or were not present to start with. We just start creating them, if you understand what I mean. So it's very important to keep this distinction, and I see from your question, Nick, that you were keeping that. That's why you say, I'm going to have an out-of-body experience here, but I'm not getting it. What is the difference? How can I do it? Wonderful. That means you are lucid at that time. Great. Thank you for your question. Very productive. Thank you. Dr. Gonzo, how are you doing? Thank you for being with us. I often hear terms consciousnesses, subconsciousness, ego, higher self, etc. Is it total mess in my head with it? Yes, I understand. Look like I am an onion with all that layers, not a solid thing. You know what? If you ask a scientist, what is consciousness? That is a problem because each person interprets in a different way. If you ask one, what is a higher self? Because I have already tried to put all of that together. My graduation, my main area of study is linguistics, language. And I am fascinated with that. And we have already had events like conferences here at the IAC campus, where I am now, in which the main point was to discuss what is consciousness? How do you define it? What is self for you? And the problem is that these terminologies are so vague nowadays. And nowadays, well, fortunately, we have this terminology. Some decades ago, we didn't even had names for certain of the things we experience. But I've seen throughout the literature, in some cases that I have examined, people that when they talk about higher self, it's just their lucidity. In a level, for example, if we are not in total alignment with the physical body, we may grasp some aspects of our knowledge that were present there even before we were born. But other people, they say higher selves, referring to like a spiritual mentor, like a more advanced non-physical being or presence, that they get inspirations from, they get a sense of a bigger reality there and gives them more clarity. So that is for them their higher selves. So you feel like it's a total mess because it is. And one of the things that scientists discuss, those that are more at the leading edge point of all of these studies in understanding if we are only physical, the non-local consciousness, how far we expand, all of that. One thing that all of them agree is we do not have a consensus terminology. Sometimes when I'm talking to somebody, being that in an interview or maybe just exchanging idea with someone from another organization, I try to hear what is the meaning that they give to these words, to understand what they are trying to say. Because they may say something like, well, the self is selfless. God, what the heck is the self is selfless? If there is a self, if it's me, I am something that now I'm going to call someone because we are referring to us as human beings. But I am something. I am something that is not what my sister is. Many of you know my sister. She is the president of the IAC currently, but she's what she is, and we are super, super close. That's why we dedicate to the same area of study. We have always been so close. We have many things in common. But goodness, I'm not her. I know it. Okay, then we can have an experience in which we are outside the body. And we have a communication that is so much more direct, without the barriers of language as we have here, without the social and cultural obstacles. We can see ourselves and understand ourselves from a point of view that is much beyond only this moment, this life, the ID we have. And then we feel like, oh, what is this? But how do we explain what is that? That is who we are. We use the term consciousness. By the way, one of the areas that use term consciousness, if I can call it an area, I don't think so. It's Star Trek. Many times in Star Trek, I see them using consciousness to refer to the soul, to refer to our individual essence. But some people will call it something else. So when we refer to a non-physical being, like it's an entity, okay, so that's a term all of us understand, but it's a being. And is there a difference between, for you, maybe not, but for many people when they talk to me, they set some differences between different types of entities. So it's so confusing. What we need is more clear studies in our area. And I think, if you allow me a comment here as well, is I think that we need more of a respect to the area of the multidimensional reality, the spiritual studies. Because it gets to a point that is almost like anyone can get a microphone and a camera and say anything, and I love it. It's much better than when we were some decades or centuries ago in the secret societies and only a few people could say something. No, yes, that is an information for everyone. But it does not make everyone an authority. And sometimes I hear things that I say, wow, this person really has some experience. Interesting, very logic comment. Oh, this shows a lot of wisdom, in my opinion, of course, but based on what I have witnessed and experienced. So I say, this shows a lot of common sense in relation to this multidimensional spiritual world. But sometimes I hear people saying things that is simply like, this person is completely off. And that is what people like the most, because it gives explanations, or they would give explanations, that it's so complex and intricate that the person feels like, yes, I'm getting to somewhere, but we are getting to nowhere. It's just an illusion, and that's how so many people get caught into sometimes cults. I'm not saying every area is a cult, I'm not saying that. But what I'm trying to say, yes, there are areas that they get to the brink, if not with all of the characteristics. By the way, I have a video here in the channel that I say, characteristics of a cult. All of us should learn to recognize it. But I also see, forgive me that I am detouring so much, but bringing other comments, but I think they are pertinent. But another thing that I see a lot is that if someone is teaching spirituality, but tells, for example, with this you are going to be rich, you will be filthy rich, a billionaire in no time, then there are lots of followers. Well, if it were that easy, we would have so many more billionaire people in this world. But that's, using the needs, weaknesses of people to bring out that idea. So what I'm trying to say behind all of this is that we need more serious science. We need to credit the studies. We need to follow proper protocols when we talk about these, and we need to be clear what is a personal experience, what is a experience of someone else, what is result of research or not, because otherwise this area of study, the multidimensional reality, multidimensional world, the fact that we don't die, whatever you want to call it, will never be taken seriously. And it's so hard sometimes because I dedicate my life to study this. But I don't see us going very far in these decades that I have been here. What I see is, yes, the topic is so much more popular. There's so much more interest. It's so much more open to all people talking about all of this. Yes, it's the higher self. Is my inner child. Oh, it's myself, self with capital S. Oh, this is my soul. Oh, no, now it's the conscious. No, but the consciousness is not the being. You know, we need to understand the concept. And these words, they really make it more difficult to all of us. So you are not the only ones who feel sometimes it's a mess to make sense of all of these different terminologies. And sometimes when we see what they mean, say, oh, that's what it is then. Okay. This is how we progress in this study. Thank you for bringing this topic. Very interesting. Give me just a second. What an interesting question. Peekaboo. Super interesting question. If I astral project, can I pull someone out of their bodies to join me? Yes. Is it easy? That's very difficult. I will explain why it's difficult. So, yes, it can be done. The problem is that sometimes we try and pull the person out of the body, and sometimes we are already seeing the person out of the body. It has happened to me many times. And then you try to communicate, but the person is simply not conscious of what's going on. You know, as if the person would be completely groggy or like into drugs. But of course, I'm just trying to bring references. The person is like in a coma, is there, but it's not really conscious of what's going on. So you try to say, hey, Paul, I'm here. Look, it's me. Oh, you're outside the body. But Paul is there, just looking at you and really just with other thoughts in their minds. Just something that we could call a dream. Is not a dream in a sense that it's the brain reorganizing memories. The brain is not participating. But because it is just like in a hallucination lost into one's own thoughts, we can call it's a dreamlike experience. So the difficulty is not to pull the person out of the body or to meet the person, because we do many times. The difficulty is to bring them to be lucid at the same level you are, to be able to communicate. But it's possible. I have already seen it. I have already met many people outside the body, people that I knew. And I know of people, this experience I don't have directly, but I have heard people that I know they have serious experiences, that they tried to do this, but the person they were trying to pull out of the body reacted as if it was, or the person was being attacked. Oh, no, oh, it's a demon. And say, no, it's me, just your brother. But no. So yes, absolutely, yes, you can. Easy? It depends. Sometimes easy, sometimes it's a challenge. I will ask you for permission, just for a second. I want to turn off the sound of my phone that is over there. I do not know if you can hear, but just making some notification noises. I do not want this to disturb us. So give me just a moment. I will just turn that off. My microphone was out, right? Thank you. Thank you, Carol, for calling my attention. Good. Miguel Gomez. Hi, Miguel. When child, I had very nice astral experiences until I faced an entity. After that, I could not do it again. Only very violent vibration with apparent corporal strong pain. Never afraid. Let me see if I follow what you are asking. I'm going to reread, okay? You guys, you please reread here with me. I understand the first part of your comment. I'm not sure I understand the second part. So when you were a child, you had nice out-of-body experiences. But one time you met an entity, and this entity was violent, and I suppose, right? And after that, you could not have astral projection again. You only have violent vibrations, like the vibrational state. Sometimes it seems violent with apparent corporal strong pain. Sometimes the vibrational state is so physical, so clear, so vivid, so ostensive, tangible, that's like, what is going on in my body? So it's not a real pain, right? It's just a different feeling that we almost could say, something's here with a pressure, with a vibration. I am in a toaster. I am being zapped. Something like this, of so vivid it is. But it's not literal. I understand that's what it is because you put inverted commas here with quotations marks. And then you say, never afraid. But you bring a question mark. I understand you are never afraid of the vibrations, even though they feel that strongly. The only thing I want to comment with you here is that this experience of seeing something or feeling something that surprises us when we are in an out-of-body experience. So for you was meeting an entity, probably that was not the most pleasant of the encounters. But it could be, for example, that you just went out of the planet, boom, like a skyrocket, boom, and then it surprised you. Or could be any other thing. But the surprise, the lack of action that we feel sometimes, that momentary confusion is almost like an emotional confusion, but not necessarily emotional in a bad sense. Can even be a good thing. That tends to bring us to the body again and create almost like an imprint, a conditioning that is mostly inside of our minds. It's not inside of our brain. It's inside of our mental body. It's in our mind. If we are outside the body, that is there with us. And this prevents us from being able to reach the lucid experience again. Probably you do, but only when you are already there, just few of them, and then they are in a point that you cannot remember. So this is super, super common. How can you handle this? By doing a program that you create for yourself. You can do it. Or you see how you can follow a strategy or a program for you to start to desensitize yourself little by little. I have already worked with some people, like in some sessions, things like this, people who had experience and they stopped having. So what is the right strategy for each person? It varies a bit, but in your case, what is my suggestion? See, what was the impact of that? The surprise, the fear, you felt threatened, and then the feeling of the vibrations are there, but you no longer manage to detach because you black out before detaching, or the vibrations come and then all of a sudden you are so conscious, so lucid, and you even unconsciously just hold yourself there inside the body, not allowing the experience to go further. Observe all of these details. What is it? Or is it that experience, or maybe even other events of life, created some level of blockage in your energy body? And because of that blockage, you started having more difficulty to detach consciously. Even though if you are having the vibrations, that shouldn't be the case. But once you observe what was the trigger or what remained after that experience as a conditioning to you, then you work on how you are going to desensitize that. And by doing techniques that helps you to tackle that specific attribute, element that you find out is blocking you or created this conditioning on you, then you have chances of getting rid of this sooner. Because sometimes it's funny, by staying there for too long, it seems almost that it becomes harder for us to get rid of that later on. Don't mind that, because it's absolutely possible to completely revert and start having your fully lucid, controlled projections at will again. It is possible. Okay? I hope I understood your question and could answer it properly. Thank you. So, Johannes, welcome. I think it's the first time you are here, at least that I see your name. So be very welcome. How do I keep myself calm before and during astral consciousness and awareness? There's something in the way you put your question that brings me to some experiences that I have had. Because sometimes we are pretty much in control when we are here in this dense reality, right? So it's us, our bodies, and we are in control. There are dangers, aren't there? Yes, there are many. Our body is so vulnerable, in a way so sensitive. But here we are, and there are dangers that are inherent to life. When we are outside, suppose you are completely conscious in and out of body experience, and you are feeling you are flying, or you are expanded, or you are seeing our own non-physical body, and you are seeing all the energy. So that is so wonderful. There for you, that reality is pretty much palpable. Well, can we sometimes be surprised with something? Yes, but much more stable, much nicer, much more predictable than here physical life. So out there, it's actually easier for us to assure we are okay, we are safe, and everything is good. But what my point here is, here a tangible reality. Out there, tangible, not physical, but tangible when we are there. The problem is that when we are here inside, and see if that makes sense to you, Johannes, when we are here inside the body, and we start getting more awareness of this non-physical reality around of us, be it because we start feeling energies moving around, or we feel like we know there is something out there, and sometimes not even a being, an entity or anything like that. Sometimes just, yes, there's a world out there. Which world? The non-physical world. The astral dimensions and many different layers of dimensions. When we say astral dimensions, spirit world, we are not referring to one thing. There are layers. That is where the complexity of the out-of-body experience comes from. But then, for those of us who are sensitive to that, but we are still here, and I have experienced that quite a number of times, it's almost as if, wow, so I am here, but I am sensing something else. Which dimension I can control? How can I make sense of all of this? So that's probably what you sense. Most of the cases, I cannot say 100%, of course, but most of the times that I have examined and that I have experienced this, because I have had my traumas as well during my youth with some fears that I had, but I have already commented about this here in the channel, in other videos. But sometimes, because of experience we have had as a child, like sensing a spiritual presence, or sensing this non-physical reality, but still we cannot even verbalize what is it we are sensing, and sometimes being afraid during the night, or waking up afraid because we cannot make sense of what's going on, that tends to imprint this type of reaction. So when we start becoming more conscious of this expanded reality, we feel like, how do I keep calm? It's almost like there is an unconscious, involuntary reaction that we have. So try to examine a little bit if you had been quite sensitive during your childhood or your youth, and if that could have left some lingering effect of this automatic reaction. The other thing I want to suggest to you is the VELO technique. If you are not familiar with it, take a look how to do the VELO technique. I have a video about this here in the channel, and recently I created a course only about this. The course is online with exercise, with everything. It's very easy for someone to get because I tried to put into a very specific structure the step-by-step of the VELO technique. Because for me, I used to be so sensitive and sometimes a little spooked when I would sense something non-physical present in my waking life. But when I start doing a version of the VELO technique, simpler, not as effective, but very similar thing, which is moving energies inside of the body. And that is an ancient technique, by the way. But when I start doing that, it's almost like in 1 week, 2 weeks, boom, I changed it completely. You cannot believe how that was remarkable, quick, important. So I think those of you who are here listening to these ideas, and you are the type that you are sensitive, and it's almost like you want to have your astral adventures, but sometimes you feel refrained. You do not know who you are going to meet out there, what you do with your energy, and if your energy is in a proper condition, how is the energy of your bedroom. Try the VELO technique. Try it, because I absolutely recommend, and the number of studies and testimonials that I have from people like you reporting how much that made a difference to control so many different things and adjust so many different things in life. So I think it's worthwhile for you taking a look at that as a strategy. Okay? Does it make sense? Hope it helps. Jotun, hello. I've gotten some feedback that non-human being doesn't understand my language outside the body. Is there a way to solve this? What do you mean by non-human beings? You mean extraterrestrials? Or you mean people who are in between lives? There isn't, in my experience, in all of the studies and all of the different experiences that I have examined from other people, what is most important when we are outside the body is not the language, the verbal language we use, is how clear we are in our thoughts, which therefore impregnate our energy with that information, and it goes to the other person. So if you are with someone, suppose you meet somebody who is in between lives, but it's someone who has had their previous lives, let's say in Sweden, so they speak Swedish, and you speak English, and you have had many lives just using English language, just for the sake of the argument, to make it simple. Then when you try to communicate, it doesn't matter. You are organizing your ideas. And if the ideas are very organized, it's transferred to the other person. We do not need to hear a sound. We do not need to hear a voice. What is important here is that we understand how this mechanism goes, because sometimes you have someone close to you. For example, you are in a given dimension, community, and an environment in the astral dimension. Someone, some being, whatever that is, comes close to you, you can immediately know the intention, their thoughts, what they mean to do, and as others can know about us. So probably what could help there in this moment is not so much thinking of the language, because that can create a barrier. If you're trying to communicate, someone says, how do I say this? How do I understand you? That feeling of confusion is what becomes part of the energetic information there. But when we are just, bam, clear with the information, we don't even know what language the other is speaking. And it doesn't matter from which planet that consciousness is. And by saying this, I'm not saying you are meeting extraterrestrials. That is one whole big chapter. One day we need to do a serious video about this. So much confusion out there. But anyways, even if it were somebody visiting from another planet, let's say, still the language of the consciousness. So it's not English, Swedish, any other, Chinese. No, it's the consciousness, what we think. That is what prevails when we are lucid. So next time, try to work with energy outside the body. When you are out there doing the VELO or some other technique and communicate your thoughts directly. That is going to help. Is that good? Yes, I hope it clarified. Sarah. Okay, so then I'm going to get 2 more questions. Is that right, Carol? No? I don't know what you are saying, Carol. I'm going to read your message here. Yes, yes, you can do that, Carol. Yes, thank you. Ah, there is a continuation. That's what she meant. Okay. All right, so here goes. I would love to know your opinion of what shadow people assume what shadow people are. I have encountered this experience during sleep paralysis and astral projection. The shadow person told me they would always have me. Look, we changed the terminology. Shadow people now. It will be an entity in another moment, and then it becomes an evil being. The terminology changes. And I have seen shadow people being used in different ways. From what you are saying here, it's what I would call simply a consciousness that is intrusive. And sometimes we can meet some of these consciousnesses that they really act in the way as shadows people are described to do. And they will always have me. No, they are not going to have you. And then the shadow person attached to me, and I could feel its vibration in me, absolutely. So then I woke up. Any ideas what shadow people are? Yes, so it's exactly, thank you for complimenting Sarah, exactly how I was interpreting. These are consciousness, spirits, beings, that they are around the whole time. They tend to manipulate us, get close to us, and sometimes bringing not the best out of us, but exploiting our weaknesses, exploiting our fears, and sometimes like seducing us in ways that it seems nice, but at the end of the day, it's just trying to control and manipulate us. But look, very much the same what life is, isn't it? We get manipulated, sometimes we are deceived, sometimes there are people that get close to us and we don't feel that nice of a vibe coming from them. It's the same thing. So these shadow people, they are very much intrusive consciousness. I call them intruders, simply because, they are not necessarily welcomed, or sometimes they are, but it's not positive for our evolution. So beings, spirits, entities, how do you handle that? Dealing with your own energy, because sensing their presence, sensing them getting close to you, sensing them around, encountering them in the out-of-body experience. This is because we are conscious enough to perceive their presence, because many people have it, but they don't perceive it. So you noticed it. To start with, very good for you, Sarah, because then you can at least analyze what's going on. And at the moment you sense it, work with energy, meaning make use of your own energy from your energy body. You can emit energy towards them, pretty much like some of these avatar movies we see, Doctor Strange type of thing. Yes. Emit energy. It doesn't have to be to fight, it doesn't have to be aggressive, but it has to be firm meaning. You know what you mean. Please, leave me alone. Please, get out of here. This is my bedroom. So you are in a sleep paralysis and you sense that. We cannot accept that. But that is so common, Sarah. So common. So good for you that you are aware that this exists. But I promise you, lots of people experience it. And they are going to call it a nightmare. They are going to call it some other type of thing when they are lucid enough to remember of it. Because sometimes they are not. So work with energies. And the other thing you can do if you are projected outside the body, do the VELO technique out there. If you guys have never tried, please try. You are projected outside the body. But make sure you are not just detaching. You are out. You are out. You do the VELO technique out there. That works beautifully. Sometimes helps us to be more lucid. Why I say make sure you are not detaching? Because if you are on the process, if you are going out, the moment you do the VELO, you change the structure of your energy. You change the frequency. So that may contribute and help you get out more easily, or that may bring you back. You need experience to see what phase of the projection you are in and what is the process going on with the energy. But in many cases, I have used VELO to be able to detach because the energies were kind of stuck. You know, when you are there, you don't go further, but you know you are not completely inside. So I would use VELO to help me to get the energies more loose and detach. But when it's going out smoothly and it's progressing, even if it's slowly, but it's progressing, sometimes we would not do anything, just allow it to go ahead. So be sure you observe that. But if you're outside the body, do the VELO technique out there and you will see what a difference it makes. By the way, I have a video here that I left. I think it was a live chat that I had actually, in which I was telling one experience that I had, that I was kind of lured to a place outside the body in that projection. And when I got into the place, it was like I had no way out. What did I do? VELO out there. And then I changed frequency. I went to a completely different level of frequency, environment, or layer in this astral non-physical dimension. So there are resources that we can use, but everything is in here. If we believe we are powerless, then they win. And that's why it's so convenient, right, to say, I'm going to always be there. Believe me, you try to leave the body, I'll be here. Oh, you cannot leave your body. It's very dangerous, or whatever. Oh, you need me to be happy. So it's a way of, playing with our minds and our self-confidence. That is what's very remarkable there. We need to be with our self-confidence there at its best. Wonderful questions. Do we have one more, Carol? I think we are about time to start stopping. So let me. I see that Carol put there for you a link if you want to take advantage of this free event I mentioned to you, which, by the way, I'm going to offer with Ana Laura, who is my sister, and I love having family members into the same area. And I'm going to teach with Wagner, who is my partner, my husband, so another great opportunity. And we have been to this for so many years that I'm not going to tell you. But that's it. If you want, it will be a pleasure to see you there. Oops, I kicked here my camera. All right. Back into place. Thank you. So I have Germaine. Hi, Germaine. Nice to have you here. Have you ever come across a child's consciousness during a projection to where there was a need to assist him or her because of disorientation or simply not knowing where to go? I have had this experience meeting children. It was more than one and in different moments. But most of the time, actually, if I think back here, I think all of the experiences that I had was to supply some sort of support. There were times in which I would only get closer and talk. I have some of my experience published in which I saw, and that is very different than our reality, but I saw like an environment in which there were consciousnesses who manifested themselves as children simply because they were not completely lucid of where they were. Because of course, outside the body, we do not have an adult or a elder or a child. We are consciousnesses. But the body will adapt to manifest an appearance that is consistent to how we see ourselves. Our self-image, sorry. Allergy, that's why I keep here sipping water. So our mind will create that image. Therefore, when we think of someone who is presenting that image, it's possible, but I have had many experiences, but not one helping them to find their way, helping them, oh, you are dead. Is that what you mean? You are in between lives. This is specifically no, but different types of assistance, I have had many. For me, it's not that common to meet consciousness appearing as child, or as children, sorry. I believe in all of my life, probably I have had 5 of those. So for me, that's not so common. Some people say they meet children outside the body a lot. And sometimes I keep wondering, is it really what happens? Is there some sort of synchronicity that brings them together? Some sort of affinity? Or is this because the person remembers more? Or is this some subconscious process that is creating that in the person's mind? I think it varies from case to case. So I do not have a very precise answer to your question, but I brought some angles for you to think about. Okay? Wonderful. One more question, Carol. Yelena, how are you doing? Does the body alignment to Earth poles, like north and south, can affect our ability to project? I don't think so. Everything that I have studied, I have experimented myself, I have observed. You know, when we do like surveys, never observed anything like this. No. I believe every aspect of nature, meaning the physical world, will impact. If we are in a neighborhood that there's a lot of pollution, it will impacts our lungs, our breathing, the quality of the air we bring in, how much of real prana energy will be in the air for us to absorb and distribute into our energetic system. I believe everything influences our state of mind, if we have any trauma, our expectations, if we are very anxious, everything. But these have any specific effect? In my point of view, no. Okay. Last 2 questions. Is that okay with you? Okay, Carol. Mohammed, I have still a few people here, but you know, I do not want to make this too long. So let me try to get this one and one more. Mohammed, nice to have you here, Mohammed. I get separated with my ex-girlfriend. Not an easy period. No, not at all, no matter how peaceful it is, right? Absolutely. Since that moment, I don't feel any more vibrational states, less lucid dreams, etc. How can I help to find back my experiences? Number 1, it's normal to get this unstable moment, and sometimes that lack of stability just because of change. It's not that you are unstable emotionally or anything. Could also be, but it's not what I mean. What I mean is by being different, by having different energetic connections, and that presence is no longer there in the same way, that will always makes us feel that we gain more abilities and reduced in others. So that is a phase. But how long is that phase natural to last? I don't think I can answer that in a very objective way because it varies from case to case, but I cannot think of more than 6 months and we are still unbalanced. But what you have to observe, in my opinion, there is, besides the separation, the energetic process, is there any sort of non-physical presence around? that would reinforce me being still connected to my previous relation, being still missing in a way something, not necessarily the relationship, but something, be still not strong enough to produce all of my experiences in the same way. I think that's what you have to ask yourself and work on. Other than that, keep doing strong VELOs. You know how to do it. I know we have discussed about this here, Mohammed. VELO is going to create some sort of a loosening of the energy that we can only do the VELO technique if we let go of the pain, at least part of it. Otherwise, that keeps holding the energy stuck. So it becomes a fight almost, but fight in a good sense, like a struggle in a proper sense, a challenge, in which we want to move the energy, we want to concentrate, but at the same time, because we are feeling that pain, we cannot. Because if we move the energies, it's almost like the pain comes to the surface and will go away. But we do not want to handle that. So the best that I know is VELO. And give it time. Try to do something different. And it varies so much from person to person. I have a short video, simple one, but sometimes clarifies some aspects that I called breakup or divorce, energetic process in breakup or divorce. If you guys look for these words there might be some aspects that will help clarify the ideas and see different strategies. What is important is you cannot only recover the control you had of your experiences, Mohammed, but you can go beyond because you have learned more, you have had more types of situations and energy experience, so you can absolutely recover all of that. Okay, can we stop, Carol, please? I guess I'm going to say goodbye because otherwise we stay here for so long. But I will be soon back here with you again, I promise. I have here a list of topics, and somebody there said, yes, okay, for the astral terrestrial. Yes, but I want to organize well because I have several arguments or different aspects that I want to bring so that it's a well done, complete video. But I'm going to take a look at your suggestions of topics. I will read your comments and hear what experiences you want to share with me after I publish the video, so in the comments down below. And I'm going to ask Carol to place a comment there if any of you wants to watch this course that IAC is offering, the 4-day course. So you'll be very welcome. I'd love to see you there. Okay, goodbye, guys. Thank you so much for being with me. All of you here. Jean-Marc just arrived. Very nice. Aprendismo Astral. Good. So nice to have all of you here. I love when it's our day of chatting. We'll keep up with that. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions. It will help us explore a lot. And I hope to see you soon. Okay? Goodbye, guys. Ciao, ciao. See you. Thank you for being with me here personally. I value that a lot. Thank you.